G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so very good to see you. Bonjour, ça va? Très bien? Eh? Wonderful to be here. Now today is a very, very exciting day because it is the day before Nikon are about to release their annual financials. What happened in the previous financial year ending the 31st of March 2021. That was the end of the financial year. We've now been in the new financial year for just over a month, April and now parts of May. And in this video, I want to talk about the fact that, well, I think this is going to be an absolutely pivotal financial address from Nikon. It will deliver a lot of information to us, which will hopefully give us some transparency on what's going to happen next. Also, I want to address the fact that I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that are pretty frustrated at Nikon at this point in time. But I'm not sure everybody's looking at the big picture. So I would like to share my thoughts about what's going on and why we should have a little bit more empathy for Nikon. Every company has its own sets of ups and downs. Every company's different, and Nikon is significantly smaller than its two largest rivals, Sony, Canon. All right, let's get into it. Yes, Nikon have not released any new hardware since December of 2020. Now, some would have you feel or think that that was 5 years ago, and actually it's only 4 months and a week or so ago. In that time, Nikon hasn't been silent. Again, some would suggest that Nikon are a zombie company and there is nothing going on. But actually, we have had software releases, we have had firmware releases, and also Nikon continues to develop and announce other things beyond just the photo world. Something that would be really important for all of us to continue to keep in the back of our minds, that Nikon is a company that's made up of 4 major pillars, and their consumer photographic division is just one of those pillars, and it only makes up about 1/3 of Nikon's total business.
Let's look at these business segments. So imaging makes up about 38.2%, precision equipment 40.6%, healthcare 10%, industrial metrology and others another 10%. By region, the US is by far the largest market for Nikon, 34%, more than 1/3 in that one country. Europe, almost 15%, Japan almost 15%, China almost 20%, and the rest of the world. So the rest of the world only makes up 16.8%.
Which means 60 to 70% of the company is actually off doing other things that aren't related to consumer cameras and consumer lenses. We're going to jump onto their website just to remind ourselves of what Nikon does.
So Nikon has been around since 1917. There are 99 companies. Nikon Corporation, 82 consolidated subsidiaries, 16 associated companies. It's a complex group. As of March 31st, 2020, there were 20,119 consolidated employees. Revenue was 591,000 million yen. Operating profit at the time, 31st March 2021, and we will know tomorrow what this is looking like for the next year, it was 6 billion yen. Expenditure on R&D was up 10% on the previous year. For example, did you know we manufacture equipment used to fabricate the semiconductors found in your PC and smartphone? And that we make measuring instruments to detect microscopic defects in electronic components. Nikon technologies contribute to people's lives in ways you may never have imagined. So to be very clear about the 4 arms of Nikon's business, we have imaging products, which we all know well. This is cameras, binoculars, and laser rangefinders. All sorts of cool stuff. Then we have precision equipment business. And as we can see here, IC chips and high-resolution flat panel displays hold the key to the future improvements in IoT and AI through the development and production of manufacturing systems that expose circuit patterns of such components. Nikon is supporting the creation of a super smart society. So I believe Nikon make these things here, the FPD lithography systems. So this is some pretty major stuff. As we can see, they're making these big machines here. So a lot more than just cameras. And then in this area, all different types of microscopes, cell culture observation systems, devices for checking our eyes. Perhaps we've all used one when we go and visit the optometrist, and all sorts of other types of scientific equipment that we can see here in great detail. And industrial metrology equipment and other types of equipment. Nikon offers an extensive and varied lineup of measuring and inspection systems to meet the wide-ranging demands of industry, fully supporting cutting-edge manufacturing processes. We are also contributing to the evolution of science, technology, industry, and society, as well as people's lives, via diversified businesses that range from the development of the latest technologies for space exploration to the manufacture of more familiar products such as ophthalmic lenses. I don't know how to say that. Someone help me out. We can see here, again, lots of really interesting equipment that, as they say, is helping them work and create the future.
So firstly, I would like to share why it is that I have empathy and or understanding of where Nikon is at, and I am simply not that worried about it. So let's dive in. Okay, so what have we got here? As I just said, Nikon have not released any hardware in the last 4 months, and some people would have you think it's the end of the world because of what Sony and Canon are doing. Fine, let's put Sony and Canon to one side because they are not the benchmark of Nikon. Nikon are the benchmark of Nikon. Why do I have empathy? Well, the empathy comes from the fact that I have been in business for over 30 years myself. I'm going to give you one example from my business of where I've had to do something that my customers did not like simply because of the realities of business. Do I have the opportunity to talk to every single customer about why this is happening? No, because I don't know where they are, I don't know how to reach them, I don't know what social media platforms they may or may not be on. In my business, I used to make both a black and white, a monochrome, a fully monochrome, and a fully color calendar. I made 2 separate products each and every year. I have been making calendars since 2003, I think the year was, and the last time I made 2 calendars was about 3 years ago. So for roughly 15 years, this is what was going on. And due to the changes in the world, which have affected both photographers and the photography industry, which are things like the rise of the smartphone, is probably one of the single biggest things that's affected both the photographic industry and professional photographers. This has meant both photographers and photographic companies, like that one there, well, we've had to do things. We've had to make changes. So for me and my calendars, what's happened in my world is retail stores have closed and the smartphone has given everyone a calendar in their pocket. A calendar where they can send a calendar to 1 or 100 people and their calendar is miraculously, digitally, via the cloud, updated, dynamic and awesome. It simply means there's less calendars bought each year. We've also had a loss of probably something like 60% of the retailers that were around 10 years ago do not exist today. So there are not the outlets to sell the same number of products. Now, I used to produce 2,500 black and white calendars and 2,500 color calendars. And they just simply got to a point 3 years ago where I had to make the difficult decision of, Do I continue to make this? But I'm worried the market has changed so much. So I made the difficult decision of just simply ceasing to make the black and white calendar. Now that has meant something in the order of 2,000 to 2,500 people are affected and unhappy. And I do know, I have heard from some of them, I've probably heard from something like 1 in 100 of those people. So I've probably heard from something like 20 odd people over the last few years. Where is the black and white calendar? Will you ever do the black and white calendar again? I've been collecting these things for almost 20 years. Now, from my perspective, on a personal level, it's tragic. I don't like it, and I wish I could do something about it. But I have to be realistic. I have to go, the market's not there. The market's not at the same size. It's not moving at the same speed. The retailers aren't there. So I had to make a realistic and difficult decision that made some customers unhappy. And I have not and am not in a position to communicate with all of them. This is the same for Nikon. They are going through some very difficult growing changes, or shall we say shrinking changes at the moment. And not only are they having to do this in regards to their photographic division, but they're doing it for the whole company. It may well be that some of their resources are working very hard in some of those other growing areas, like robots, like the cameras that are being put into robots for the automotive industry, something that Nikon talked about a few months ago. They've recently signed a memorandum of understanding to work on other projects in other industries. So Nikon are doing things and they are working on other things. But sometimes companies have to make tough decisions as to where resources go. When you've got to make major structural change, when you've got to adapt to a market that used to sell 120 million cameras and now it sells less than 10 million, this stuff takes time, and any business is like turning or stopping a supertanker. You know, it takes 3 to 5 miles to stop or turn a supertanker. It takes time. You can't just do a handbrake turn wherever you feel like it. So please, 3 or 4 months is not long. It's simply not long considering everything that's going on in their world, which I talked about in this video here, but very quickly, that's relocating to Thailand, designing and releasing a whole lot of new hardware in their camera division, dealing with the global pandemic, which is obviously a super big deal. And obviously they've got to continue to be able to get all of this hardware out to the world while all of this is going on. Don't worry too much. I would completely agree if this style of behavior is continuing for the rest of this year, then there's most definitely something for us to worry about. If it's a 6 to 12 or 9 to 12 month sort of silence in hardware, yep, that's too long. But a quarter, a few months, it's just not a big deal. It's really not worth worrying about. But please, I don't want anyone to forget that in 2007, after years, personally years for me and many other Nikon users waiting for Nikon to go full frame with their first digital camera, we had the Nikon D2X. It was a crop sensor in this country, a $9,000 to $10,000 camera. When were Nikon going to go full frame? And it took years. They were years behind Canon, something like 3 or 4 years, something in that order, behind Canon, who had gone full frame. But when it arrived, it was an absolutely groundbreaking, class-leading camera. The Nikon D3 was a paradigm shift in what was possible with digital cameras. This was the first digital camera, from my perspective, where the files did not look like a digital camera. Somehow Nikon had tweaked the secret sauce to make it look like film. This was a big moment, and it was a moment completely worth waiting for. Absolutely. Nikon had given us photographers the look and the feel that would continue right until today. And it's that color science, the dynamic range, the low noise and high ISO that continues to be class leading, and something that Nikon is very, very good at. And for me and my style of photography, this is absolutely what I'm looking for. So come on everybody, take a deep breath. Tomorrow is a huge day, or depending on when you see this, Nikon's financial announcements, it's a huge moment for Nikon. They are going to be revealing ultimately what happened with last financial year. And my other point about all of this is I suspect they've been having all these sales and churning out all of this equipment because they're trying to get an understand of what the next financial year is going to look like, the one we are in now. We're 1 month in. Now, this is the year where Nikon said they would be back in profit. Part of what's going to be in this financial announcement is going to be their guidance. They will give you and me and the whole world guidance on what they think is going to happen in this financial year. So we all need to listen very carefully. We need to scrutinize those numbers very closely because I think it will all be revealed in this financial announcement. I would love to know your thoughts. Please let me know. What do you think? Does this make sense? This opinion piece about what's going on and the fact that a few months of silence is not that big a deal? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's so wonderful to see you. And if this is your first time here, golly gosh, I'd love to see you again. So please do subscribe. Please click on the notification bell and please share. Please like. And if you'd like to watch over 300 episodes right now, just look down there. And we would love to see you in our city gallery. Okay, that's enough community service announcements. I'm off to take some photographs. Oh, and pick my kids up from school. Okay, see ya.